Today in the Great Lakes Kitchen, I've got something really special for you. Today, we're making perhaps my favorite burger of all time. But we're not just going to make any old burger, we're going to make venison burgers. Now, you may have heard of the burger chain called Smash Burger. Well, they more or less kind of invented the smash burger, which is really just a way of cooking and preparing the meat for the burger and kind of assembling it in a certain order. The meat comes out flavorful and juicy and just, it's perfect for making a really big, amazing hamburger. And because lately I've got some venison to work with, I'm putting a little spin on the classic smash burger by using venison, or more specifically 50-50 ground venison and pork, which is sort of the standard way to turn ground venison into a good, delicious, sort of fattier meat for something like a hamburger. There's a few steps, but none of them are hard. We have to make a seasoning blend. We have to make a very simple but tasty burger sauce, chop up a little bit of onion, get all of our other toppings and ingredients ready to go. So enough of the intro, let's jump right in and start making some venison smash burgers. The first thing I'm going to do is make my seasoning blend and burger sauce. Both are very simple and very tasty. For the seasoning, we're just mixing some salt, garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, and black pepper. See the video description for the exact measurements. Next, the burger sauce. The sauce is mostly mayonnaise with some mustard, Dijon in my case because I don't like regular yellow mustard, and just a little bit of dill pickle juice. Mix all of it together very well, and that's it. And again, see the video description for the exact measurements that I used. Next, I'll get my meat portioned out and ready to go. A single burger will consist of 2 patties, which start off as these 3-ounce balls of meat. If you're using beef, a good 80-20 blend will work perfectly. For today, I'm using a 50-50 blend of venison and pork. Moving over to the stove, I've got my SteelMade flat top griddle heated up to about 360 degrees and we're ready to start cooking. You can, of course, use a large skillet instead of a flat top. Cast iron would work very well. But since I have this big griddle, there is nothing I'd rather use to make these burgers. For each patty, I'll throw down a thin pad of butter and set the ball of meat right on top of it. And right away, we learn where the name Smash Burger comes from. I want to immediately smash that ball of meat down until it's very thin and then hold it there for a full 10 seconds. This is going to let the meat begin to caramelize on the bottom and form a slight crust. This step is imperative to the classic smash burger flavor and texture. And by the way, you can absolutely just use a large flipper and apply some pressure for the smashing step. But if you're going to make these burgers often, and I recommend that you do, you might want to get one of these burger press thingies. This stainless steel press has a slight rim around the bottom that facilitates the perfect patty thickness when pressed all the way down to the griddle. Moving on. We also need some lightly grilled onion, so as soon as I'm done smashing those patties, I'm going to drop a handful of chopped onions onto the griddle. Then, season the burger patties with a good pinch of the seasoning blend. Because those thin patties don't take long to cook, I need to move somewhat quickly. The last thing I have to do before flipping the patties is to brush some melted butter on my buns and place them on the griddle to toast a bit. Some quality brioche buns are ideal for smash burgers, which is what I'm using here. Having been cooking for only about 2 minutes, the patties are ready to flip. But remember that the bottoms have been searing and caramelizing this whole time, so they have a tendency to stick to the griddle a bit. So I have to take care to scrape my flipper beneath that crust before lifting the patty, both to keep that crust intact and to avoid tearing up my burger. Once they're flipped, I'll scoop up those onions and place them atop one of the patties. I'll let the patties continue to cook about 30 seconds before adding a slice of cheese right on top of those onions. I'm using American cheese, which is what the classic smash burger calls for, though I'm not using cheapo individually wrapped singles, but rather what the package calls deluxe American cheese. It makes such a difference, and even though it's still not technically cheese, give the deluxe style slices a shot. They're so much better than those yucky, plastic wrapped singles. As soon as the cheese starts to get melty, we're scooping up that other patty and setting it right on top. Now the patties are done and we can start assembling this burger. In total, those patties were on the griddle for less than 5 minutes. I'm going to spread some of that burger sauce on the top and bottom bun before setting the patties in place on the bottom bun. Next, a couple dill pickle slices, followed by a thin tomato slice and some lettuce. Leafy lettuce works best rather than shredded. And lastly, set the top bun in place. And by the way, dress your burger however you want. This right here is basically the classic original smash burger, but add or omit whatever toppings you like to make the burger that's perfect for you. And for a final touch, I'll do a half wrap with a piece of parchment paper, just for authenticity's sake.
That's what I'm talking about. Whether you use venison or beef, it doesn't matter. The process is the same, and the end product is absolutely delicious. And if you're not someone who generally enjoys venison, or at least thinks maybe you don't like venison, serving it like this is the way to go, because you're not even going to care that that's not beef. This is so juicy and delicious and cheesy and just perfect that you might just think it's the best burger you've ever eaten. I think that this definitely ranks way up there on my list of best burgers I've ever made. So if you never had a smash burger, go find one of the restaurants that makes them. Maybe the original smash burger restaurant, or just make it at home. That burger sauce, a little bit of seasoning, it all comes together in just the right kind of way. I know it's a lot of steps, but if you want to create a symphony, you need a lot of instruments. So that's it for now. That's the Venison Smash Burger. I'm going to finish eating this thing before it gets any colder. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date with all our latest stuff, including food, cooking, and venison recipe videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time right here in the Great Lakes Kitchen.